A 5-year-old startup was suddenly discussed like a trillion-dollar machine. Not because it sold phones, not because it owned social media, because its software could write code, diagnose missed medical problems, scan for cyber weaknesses, and possibly erase entire categories of office work. At the center was Dario Amodei, CEO of Anthropic, describing a world that no longer moves in straight lines. He compares it to accelerating away from Earth at near light speed. You sleep one night, but the outside world has moved days ahead. Then came the market shock. After Claude Cowork appeared, $285 billion in software market value disappeared overnight. Traders gave it a name, the SaaS apocalypse. But the darker story was not the stock crash. It was Mythos. Anthropic had a model so powerful in cybersecurity that early testers reportedly warned the company not to release it broadly. Some called it a superweapon. One comparison was that access should require something like a gun license. That is not a chatbot. And this is the contradiction at the center of Anthropic. The company most afraid of artificial intelligence is also one of the companies accelerating it fastest. Its biggest product may not be Claude. It may be trust. Dario Amodei does not present himself like a typical technology celebrity. He sounds careful, tired, and permanently braced for impact. He says, panic is useless, but complacency is worse. That tension defines Anthropic's entire business. Stay calm. Move fast. The company behind Claude wanted to focus on enterprise customers, not addictive consumer apps. Yet ordinary users still rushed in. Claude Code gained momentum with developers. Claude Cowork pushed into office workflows, and Anthropic's growth curve stopped looking normal. It started looking exponential. Anthropic chose a very specific commercial path. Instead of chasing attention minutes, it chased trust, contracts, and long-term relationships. That sounds ethical. It is also brutally strategic. Advertising rewards addiction. Enterprise rewards reliability. A consumer app wants more time. A business tool must save time. A social feed can survive on outrage. A hospital, bank, research lab, or energy company needs consistency, security, and proof that the system will not create a disaster in the background. That difference is the business model. It may also explain why Anthropic became one of the most valuable AI companies on Earth, while warning that AI could destroy jobs, reshape warfare, and create risks measured in civilizational terms. That was the paradox, and Mythos made the paradox impossible to ignore. Amodei grew up around San Francisco, but he was not first drawn to startups. His father worked as a leather craftsman. His mother worked in libraries. While the internet boom surrounded him, he was more interested in math, science fiction, and the structure of the universe. That background matters for one reason. Anthropic was not born from the usual consumer product instinct. It was born from the belief that powerful systems should be restrained before they become impossible to control. Amodei later worked in biology, advised philanthropic research, spent time at Baidu's Silicon Valley office, and then joined OpenAI. His departure became one of the most discussed splits in modern tech. Amodei has said disagreements over safety alone were not enough to leave. The deeper rupture, according to him, was trust. Trust became the product. Anthropic's founding bet was simple but enormous. If AI became extremely powerful, the winning company would not only need better models, it would need customers, governments, and employees to believe its decisions were not purely driven by growth. That is why enterprise mattered. Consumer AI can become a slot machine for attention. The more minutes a user spends, the more valuable the platform becomes. AI video feeds, low-quality automated content, and endless engagement loops all point in that direction. Enterprise works differently. A pharmaceutical company does not pay for distraction. A research lab does not want emotional dependency. A business customer wants productivity, security, compliance, and a model that does not quietly create legal or operational chaos. So, Anthropic positioned Claude around work, coding, research, education, biotech, energy, healthcare, nonprofits, and business operations. If AI can help cure diseases, improve energy systems, or accelerate scientific work, those use cases usually pass through institutions. Then Claude started winning developers. That was dangerous for competitors, because switching tools is easy. A programmer can move from Claude to ChatGPT or Gemini in an afternoon. Lock-in is not enough. Model quality must lead. In AI, loyalty is fragile. And once Claude became useful enough, the question changed. It was no longer whether people would try it. It was whether entire software markets could survive it. The clearest business shock came after Claude Cowork. Soon after release, $285 billion in market value vanished from software companies in a single night. Traders called it the SaaS apocalypse because investors saw a brutal possibility. Traditional software margins could be attacked by AI agents. The fear was simple. If a company's moat is, we wrote complicated software, that moat may collapse. AI can now generate code quickly, cheaply, and repeatedly. The old advantage of having more engineers, more features, or more accumulated code may weaken. That was the trap. But Amadei does not say every software company dies. He draws a sharper line. Some moats disappear. Others become more valuable. Customer relationships still matter. Domain expertise still matters. Data, workflow knowledge, distribution, compliance, and trust still matter. The companies that understand which defenses are real may survive. The ones defending yesterday's advantage may not. The market will not be kind. This is the consumer behavior lesson inside the AI boom. People do not buy software because code exists. They buy outcomes, reliability, familiarity, and confidence. AI reduces the cost of producing features. So the value shifts toward judgment, deployment, and trust. That is why Anthropic can say software may become a larger industry overall, even while some companies lose badly. If AI expands what software can do by 10 times, an old software company might grow 1.5 times and still lose relative power. The total market can rise while incumbents fall. Anthropic itself is riding that expansion. Its compute planning shows how violent the curve became. The company expected compute needs to grow 10 times per year. Then, in the first quarter of 2026, revenue grew more than 3 times in a single quarter. Annualized, that pace points near 80 times growth. Nobody plans normally for 80 times annualized growth. That creates shortages. Users complain about tokens, systems strain, infrastructure becomes strategy. Anthropic signed major compute deals with Google and Amazon, while investors discussed valuations approaching $1 trillion for a startup only 5 years old. That number sounds absurd until you understand the bet. If intelligence itself becomes the new production layer, compute becomes inventory, distribution, and factory capacity at once. The bottleneck is silicon, but the deeper bottleneck is permission, because the most powerful thing Anthropic builds is not always the thing it releases. That is where Mythos returns. Anthropic's most uncomfortable advantage may be restraint. The company did not release Mythos widely, even though it could have accelerated research, product development, and commercial adoption. Mythos was powerful in cybersecurity. It could move through the cyber kill chain more autonomously than previous models. It was not only finding vulnerabilities, it could help turn them into exploits. Early companies that tested it reportedly warned Anthropic not to release it broadly. Some called it a superweapon. One comparison was that access should require something like a gun license. Anthropic says Mythos found 271 new vulnerabilities in Firefox. It also found many more in private company systems that could not yet be disclosed. That is not a demo. That is leverage. The trade-off is brutal. If defenders get Mythos first, they can patch systems before attackers gain similar capabilities. If the model is released too soon, the same power that protects networks can break them open. Anthropic released cyber safeguards on Opus 4.7, but Amadei warned that current defenses can be jailbroken. The company wants stronger protections before broader release. This is where product design becomes geopolitics. A model is no longer just a feature. Release timing becomes a security decision. Access control becomes a moral decision. Pricing and distribution become part of public safety. And that raises a disturbing question. Who should decide when a machine like Mythos enters the world? A government? A regulator? A board? A private company trying to grow fast enough to survive the AI race? That question does not stay inside cybersecurity. It moves straight into jobs. Moat has warned that AI could eliminate half of entry-level white-collar jobs within 1 to 5 years. He says the number is not a prediction with certainty. It is an order of magnitude warning. Still, the risk is real. AI may first make workers more productive. If 90% of a role is automated, the remaining 10% becomes more leveraged. But if automation approaches 100%, the worker must move somewhere else. That transition may be messy, unequal, and politically explosive. The job does not vanish evenly. It mutates. Moat points to software engineers inside Anthropic as an early signal. AI already writes much of the code. Some engineers become more productive. Others may find the AI can simply do the task. New roles appear like forward-deployed engineers and AI solutions architects, mixing technical work with customer understanding. Sales, finance, banking, and other entry-level office roles face the same pressure. Companies using AI can either cut costs by hiring fewer people or do more with the same workforce. Anthropic says it pushes customers toward expansion rather than pure replacement. But incentives are not always gentle. If a company can grow with fewer junior employees, the spreadsheet will notice. If a department can automate routine analysis, the hiring plan will change. If AI agents become reliable enough, the first jobs to disappear may be the very jobs young workers need to enter the economy. That is the hidden danger. Entry-level work is not just cheap labor. It is how people learn judgment, build networks, and become senior. Remove the bottom rung and the ladder still exists, but fewer people can climb it. The physical world may absorb some labor. Manufacturing, construction, infrastructure, and human-centered services may matter more when information work becomes cheap. People may still want human doctors, advisors, teachers, and relationship-driven roles for important moments. Yet the matching problem is enormous. New jobs may exist, but not in the right cities, at the right wages, or for the same people. That gap can break societies, and this is why Anthropic's story is not just about one CEO or one chatbot. It is about a new kind of company selling a product that can reshape its own market, its customers' labor costs, and the rules of global power. Claude shows the opportunity. Claude Cowork shows the market shock. Mythos shows the danger. Moat says there is roughly a 10% to 25% chance of civilizational collapse from the broader technology if handled badly. He argues Anthropic's actions reduce that risk, but he admits no system can make it zero. That is why trust matters more than branding. The company has withheld powerful models, cut off certain access, accepted commercial pain, and created a long-term benefit trust that can ultimately remove leadership. Whether that is enough is the unresolved question. The lesson for every business is sharp. When production becomes cheap, attention becomes dangerous, and trust becomes scarce, the winner is not always the loudest product. It is the one people still allow near the switch. But that lesson has a darker side. If the most dangerous AI systems are too powerful to release, then someone must decide who gets them, when they get them, and what they are allowed to do. And right now, some of those decisions are being made inside private companies racing against time, competitors, and their own warnings. Anthropic was built by people afraid of what AI could become. Then, it built tools powerful enough to prove them right. The future may not be controlled by the company that fears AI least, but by the company we trust most with the thing it fears.